Okay, we'll fix it. Hi, folks. Nick Tuckert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. Let me just fix this real quick. Hey, everybody. Hope you've had a great week. Before we get into it, I've got some bills to pay, and then we will get into our usual shenanigans. The Historical Fencing Guild, never mind the furthermore on my other channels, made possible by a generous donation from the indiecd.org, as well as my incredible patrons over at Patreon, who for as little as $1 a month are able to help me afford training gear and loaners and the stuff I review and everything else that's on the menu to make things better. We're also made possible by sales of drop everything. The Simple Sword, the Fighting Axe, and the Simple Spear. The ongoing Historical Fencing Guild Manuals of Defense series that can teach you the basics of how to handle weapons in a safe and reasonable fashion. I just dropped something that I can't lose, so I have to give it to Sir Pennington again. There we are. I hope everyone's had a good week. I've had a mixed bag of a week. It's been productive, but at some cost. I kind of tried to fall down the stairs a couple days ago, and in doing so, I caught and I held my full weight at a bizarre extension with my hands, and while it prevented what would have probably been a hospital visit, it did cause a whole lot of issue with my hands. So we may have some delays in a few things. However, I've been busy. Otherwise, things are trucking along and getting better. Also, I want to remind you guys that we are made possible. We are not made possible, but we're supported by the affiliate link through woodandswords.com. If you type this link in when you search, not only do I get a very small amount of monetary gain. I think I get 3% of whatever you spend. I also get noticed, so that when I say, Christian talking to Christian Dorst over there, could you make X? When we talk, sometimes we develop weapons or items that you guys really wish there was a trainer of. And I can say, hey, and take that to Christian. And while he listens to everybody, when I have a lot of views behind me, it gives me the weight to be able to really bring things forward. I am still dutifully working on the keep over here, and we are making steady progress. It's very slow, but it is steady, and that's what we want in progress. Continual, constant, slow progress. So I'm very excited about that. Now, we will be visiting, assuming my internet holds out, we will be visiting Purple Heart Armory, because I made an order. I want to show you what I ordered, and hopefully it will get here in time for the show that the Historical Fencing Guild will be doing live at Twin Oaks Park in New Chicago, July 28th. I want to say it kicks off at 5 o'clock, where we are opening for the Gary Shakespeare Company's performance of The Tempest. Now, it's interesting because The Tempest does not feature choreographed fights. So we've been requested to do something either choreographed or non-choreographed to spice things up and get people going just a bit. So I have roughly 2 weeks to plot that out in my head, confirm with everybody who's going, including Joe Bachman, Trelena Bachman, and possibly Richard Asplund, as well as my lovely wife will be in attendance. How much she can participate will depend entirely on how well my son is doing at the time. Not that he's ill in any way, but he is special needs and occasionally requires one of us to be with him during an outing. So there is that. Now, on to some news. I have found where I stashed my old throwing knives. This is very good because I've been looking for them. And I'm looking, like you could tell, they're up in a shelf among other, office supplies. Because for me, throwing knives are office supplies. I'm not sure if that's telling, but it does bring up a point, and I will grab a thing. I'm still here. Don't worry. I'm still here. Let me move the Krampus whip. It is nowhere near Krampusnacht, so I don't have to worry about doing that. But I want to show you guys. These are the gloves I've been fencing in for some time because I needed long, relatively good-looking brown gloves. And I don't dislike these gloves. But because I have large, short, wide hand, short fingers, these can be a little thick. These are welding gloves. They have excellent coverage. And if you're getting started, something like this is relatively inexpensive, well under $20. And I mean, I have worn parts smooth wielding these, and you could tell I use a keyhole grip because it's this angle here and here. I believe I got these at Harbor Freight. Yep, because these are Chicago Electric welding gloves. But they are delightful for that. However, they are bulky, and very importantly, there's a lot of material layered for heat safety between the fingers, which makes the feedback, as you can see, they get scrunchy. This really affects the grip. It's fine if I'm doing something wider style. Okay, here we go. So if I'm going greatsword or something like that, that's fine. Okay, I can do that. But because the motion is much larger, I'm not doing finger tricks with the greatsword. But if I want to wield a rapier comfortably, I lose a lot of control feedback and actually substantial amounts of grip due to the way the glove fits. This has been a problem I've been fighting. And occasionally, dear friends, it comes on me to do something about it because of generous donations to the Historical Fencing Guild, I can afford the gear where I don't quite have to be my usual bargain basement improvise make do for this. So I went on PHA and I ordered some of their lower end rapier gloves because they're black leather, they're padded, but they're made for light sparring, which is what I do these days. I do want to invest in some much heavier gaunts, but I'm thinking something like that, and I'll show you them a little later. And then when they eventually get in, I will do a review. But before I get into all that, I want to get into the comments, see how everyone's doing, and talk about what's going on. So first through the door at 7:59, it's our own Cindy Cat, the mistress of stitchery and amazing author. Cindy, all her stuff can be found at CKOEPP.com. And she's promoting Simple Swords with Fighting Axes at my Amazon site. The link for this channel, please like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're new here. But please share this around as people will undoubtedly really enjoy being able to do it. And tonight, tune into tonight's episode. So that is the link for tonight's episode that you're watching right now, so you can share it around that way. Support Nick's efforts to teach people to be dangerous safely. Thank you. Yes, and ow, don't do it that way. Yes. Basically, I stepped on the cat who got under my foot lightly. I didn't hurt the cat. Jumped off to keep from hurting the cat. Stepped on something else. I believe it was a dropped book or something. Slid on said object and nearly went face first down the stairs. But I caught, the bruise was mostly gone, but I caught right here on one side of the frame of the stairs, and I literally reflex grabbed the, we have a little divider thing, and caught myself, but the motion kept my full weight, so I was actually hyperextended back a bit, which means I probably popped most of the joints in my upper body in ways they weren't intended to do. It was not terribly fun. And then I tripped over something I dropped at my feet in the kitchen and did the same thing. I was moving some pans around because they were cleaning and reorganizing, and I dropped one as I was stepping, so I came down on it and Chevy chased myself across the kitchen floor. Entropy or chaos, the high strength, just something occasionally gets a hold of me, and things just go every which way. So I've got a lot of joints not right. Getting ready for this weekend's adventure. What all weekend adventures do you have this weekend, Cindy? Foxy got in around 1:35 Saturday morning, but she's been back for almost a week now, and things are great. That is wonderful. I am so glad to hear that. Check out Nick's art at deviantart.com/NickT. I am a little behind, so expect a small bulk submission there, and eventually I have to do a huge bulk submission on Instagram. I'm under Instagram at NickT_artist on Instagram. It was a long train ride. Well, Foxy, we are very glad to have you back and safe where you belong, doing what you love, with who you love, and vice versa. Training often is, yes. Oh, yes, the Kenku costume Photoshop shoot went well. The results are amusing and amazing. I've seen those pictures. I saw some of them, but my net was being very problematic. So it happens. And sounds like a cat, all right. Yes. Yes. Well, you see, I have to understand that Dusty, who is the offending cat at this point, is not a cat. Dusty is Husky hardware, software in cat hardware. Okay? Dusty escorts me places with the best of intents. This is the cat that when he was wild would escort me all the way to the railroad tracks about a half mile away when I went to the park for the festival, waited on one side of the railroad tracks because I guess that was the edge of his territory. 3 hours for me to come back to escort me back home. This is a good cat. But he escorts me to make sure that I am safe on the way to the bathroom. It's just his thing. However, he likes to get underfoot while he does it. Naturally, the Kenku had a rapier. Indeed, as everyone should. Oh, Cindy says, I'm going to the Davenport QuadCon to ask many people, do you want to adopt a whatever critter? I'm holding it about. That sounds delightful. I hate that Iowa is just a little bit outside of my usual strike range. Because he is amazing. I'm sorry, I got caught the next commentary. Because you are such an amazing person, and I'd love to go to some of these shows. It's just the finance and difficulty of long rides on me makes it out of strike for now. But I always say for now because I am a man who believes it may take me a while, but I get things done and I get places and things happen. Dusty is the American dream. His father was a plumber. You know what? Dusty really is amazing. I love Dusty. Ogre! And of course, Johnny, before I go on to the delight that is Ogre, it's great to see you. And man, are you knocking out some amazing artwork, Johnny. And of course, you are being very highly thought of in a certain guise in games. So yes, the teens that I'm running are they're an interesting lot because as shady as the Red Valkyrie group had the potential to be, These guys are straight up on, we'll work for, half of them are, we'll work for the vampires. I'd like to work for the vampires. Vampires are awesome. So, just so you know, there's hope for the next generation, Johnny. But seeing Ogre attempts to sit, you are definitely attempts to sneak in, sit in the back row, trips, falls through 3 rolls, folding chairs. Hi, everyone. Ogre, you are welcome, and you are doing violence onto chairs. You clearly belong. Yes. It is so good to see you. Well, and we got Foxy's greeting you. Foxy brought me back her late father's copy of The Art of War. I'm very good. That is beautiful. Seriously, that is an exquisite thing. It is a road trip. Yeah. Yo, Ogre, would you like me to ignore you or help you up? The appropriate response is to point and laugh. Well, I have laughed, but only because I have literally done what you have attempted. And rest assured, dear friends, I will likely do it again. Foxy, Bladed, Cindy, Johnny, that was just checked. That was already checked off the list. We've all got these, sir, and I'm actually going to take a sip out of this. Evening, Ogre. All right, so we are there. If I can get my health to work, and my hands to continue working, because I've had to take some time off to, it's like they tried to, I got set back a few weeks. And thus the return of Booby the Squeezy Square. But I do have a show in a couple weeks, so I have to kind of be very careful to not hurt myself. I also found out, and it's tentative. It's tentative because I have to make sure that the time doesn't overlap. But I may be judging an art contest at the Lake County Fair in lovely Crown Point, Indiana. I realized I have been to those fairgrounds in the past for a entirely different situation. So I'm looking. Oh, yes, the Booby the Squeezy Square is known and loved, and is both a symbol for me of humility and progress. And yes, love the name for that, stuck for that silly thing. We would rather you not hurt yourself whether you have a demo coming up or not. Yes, I appreciate your sentiment. Now, that Friday, necessarily, I will not be broadcasting this program because I will be a couple hours away at 5 o'clock. And then however long I have, which I don't think it's terribly long, we will then probably sit for the entire play, because who doesn't love free Shakespeare, and then socialize. But there is a slight chance that Joe will be able to stream that, which I hope he can. I may have him record it so that we can make sure that we don't get, because it is out in the public, out in the public, any noise, because I've had videos, copyright struck because somebody's cell phone rang in the distance and they found it. So, yeah. That being said, I have to do a little bit of techno higgity-piggity here. Tap to new window. Move this to here. And move this to here. There we are. Give me just a second. Present. Share screen. If it lets me, here we go. Boom. And we'll do this. There we are. We are, of course, at, oh no, my cart. I need to do something because apparently there was a glitch. So let me just do this one moment. It didn't get sold. So, well, then I will show you what I'm ordering. I'm glad I double checked because apparently it did not get finished selling. So we'll go back here. Let me check. My cart does not show anything problematic. So I like to tell you guys what I'm doing with the money that's been spent, and I will be buying a set of these. And now I just found out it's going to be a few weeks in extra large. Not terribly ornate, but they should do the job with minimal hand injury. They've been ranked very well as light fencing gloves. So I'm hoping that these will not only work well, but should give reasonable protection. And on top of that, I did order, so you can see the prices I'm spending here, or I will order because apparently they didn't go through, some fingertip protectors that will work for those gloves. I believe they go on the inside. And, they're going to go with this. To add, you take fingertip shots, it's bad. With the amount of hand damage I have, it's much, much worse. So I'm going to have these set up. And I think these will work really very well for me. I am also incredibly glad that I had this conversation and double check to talk about that. Why am I? Okay, it's being weird. We'll just do this. Because now I know that the order didn't go through like I thought, which is why it wasn't showing up. But let's see. Ogre says, hashtag free Shakespeare sounds a lot more political than it is. That depends on who you talk to, because there are a lot of movements right now to rewrite the classics. Uh-oh. Whatever Shakespeare did, freeing him might be a challenge. Johnny's... Well, I got a shovel. That'll help. Yeah, I'm disappointed by things necromancers don't do. I am a bad mofo necromancer. What are you doing? I'm racing Shakespeare to hear his plays performed by him. I mean, if you're going to be evil, you might as well be entertaining. But sorry, I'm derailed a bit by the image of summoning Shakespeare to perform readings of Shakespeare. I find that delightful. Anyway, we have to find gear, guys, that fits our personal needs and our price set. And there comes a point where, after you've been doing it a while, you may have to upgrade your gear. But some people say, well, why don't you just buy the big gear first? Because if you buy the big gear first, that, if you have the money to do it right and you love what you're doing, going all in is fine. But if you don't know, you piecemeal it. You figure it out. You find ways to make it happen. And then you make it happen. I like people to see that, I could go here, hold on, and get out of my cart for just a moment. And I can say, ooh, okay, we're going back here. Boom. Yay. I can go back here and I can say, I need gloves. Cool. We'll go Hemagear. We'll go arm and hand protection. We'll go gloves. Cool. If I had the money to throw at it, high guard gloves, Absolutely. Amazing. $120. I don't have $120 to throw at a pair of gloves, no matter how rather sexy they look. Even though they look more like modified. Oh, the recoil on that one hurt because I didn't sneeze into the thing. I'd actually have trouble fitting them. But that might be enough to say, well, I can't afford gloves. Now, I have some work gloves that I've been using around the house, and I got those for $12 that I'm using for drilling and stuff, but they don't have good coverage. I wouldn't have even messed with it, except I am doing a show in front of the Gary Shakespeare Company, and I want to make sure I look as good as a short, fat, furry little man can. You know, you want to look Hobbit good. So if we go back, going with these fits. Now, I'm not going with black, not because of any issue with villainy or anything like that, or even cost, because I can get them in black. But I'm going with brown because so many sword instructors are, and I'm going to say it, they look like European mall ninjas. Now, see, this is interesting. I'll go through these comments for a moment. We are glad to have you home, Foxy. Representation. Absolutely. Necromancers are just waking up from June when all the gnome illusionists are done going crazy. Oh, you know what? There are more rainbowy necromancers than people want to admit. I know some delightfully wonderful villains, but all the good guys have it. Presentation. Yes, that's the difference between being a villain and a supervillain. Can I just show up in my goalkeeper gloves? I'll flex tape the sword to it. Honestly, goalkeeper gloves, while they don't have a lot of upper protection, are great gripping gloves for a sort of sweat board. If you're going heavier, I'd say lacrosse gloves. I have a set of those. Those do great. Let's see. If those were red, we could use them for Tekken. Yes, we could. They'll get red if you use them right, Ogre. Wow. Necromancers are just really late healers. It's too late. We've got a caught. No, it's not. I didn't lose my medical license for nothing. Yes, we will avenge his brother. You have my bow and my sword and his dead brother. Yes, apparently necromancy is a sub-theme for the conversation tonight. But, geez, they're already sold out. The new Black Knight gloves are already sold out. How? I am genuinely wondering who has the money for some of these gloves that are coming out this fast. Yeah, the patients are too early. That's on them. Well, no, see, if you get there early enough as a vampire, you can solve the problem much better than just raising things. They only made a couple pairs. They must have. But I mean, I have to put the pro gauntlets up whenever I look at these things, because these are utterly gorgeous full plastic fingered gaunts, which, I was supposed to have a set of gauntlets. The man who made them asked for them back. Yes, $500. Sacred bovine. Yes. And this is still not terribly expensive. But Let's see. Now, you can get, and I want to mention, these are fairly good gloves. The Red Dragon gloves are better than lacrosse gloves, and they're only going for $100 in size 13, which I'm not sure about the sizing. It says email when back in stock, so there might be a problem there. But at least it's, something to look for, because these were the big deal for quite some time as people looked for better HEMA gloves. And Red Dragon is a good company. But as the gear improves, the older high-end stuff gets less expensive. So you have to check the prices. Now, if I were to, let me see, can I do, let me look, present. Let's see. I think it's dark. I want to show you guys the other end of armoring, and I want to show you guys this, because when you realize the way the costs fit, present. Stop screen. Give me just a second to fix this. Share screen. Boom. Dark victory. Here we go, folks. But note the pricing on some of this. That's actually $145 for a 14 gauge mild steel. That's not bad for a helmet at these days, if their prices are still here. However, complete suit of armor in HDPE. Let me try to bring that image up. I don't want to add it to my cart. Let's see. We'll go here. A blast cap is a type of, I believe that's an insert for thumb guards. Hold on. You know what? Let's find out. Let's see. Boom. So we're going here. Give me a second, because switching. Stop screen. Present. And we'll go share screen. Window. If I do it like this. Okay, you can get the whole window, but I can I do? Yes, that's much better. Blast caps are upgrades for the gloves. So, yeah, it's $40 to have the gear to upgrade the thumbs on the gloves. That's where this can get very expensive. What's this? I'm sure armoring the other end is useful as well, but armor would probably be very necessary. I will tell you this, and it is a point of pride. It is a point of pride of my wife that when she was heavy fighting, all the men were 6 foot plus. My wife is 5'3". Now she's 5'4", and she would do wrap shots. And for those who may be watching and don't know what a wrap shot is, hold on. My sword is currently storing all my electrical tape. But a wrap shot, this is the body of your opponent, okay? If you throw a strike that curls around, I'm trying to get where you can see the motion. Let me lean back for a second. Curls around and hits them from behind. when you're at close proximity, usually something like shield to shield, the wrap shots are what's going to hit. Now, she would throw head strike or body strike wrap shots with her sword, but given the height difference, she would just spank the heck out of their tailbones. And so, yes, being able, having something like that happen is it's a real mind changer for the guys who all fight their same size. So they all had to add butt plates on the bottom of their armor because they were getting spanked. And but movies taught me that having armor increases the death rate, though. Armor is designed to stop shots. These period armor was not tinfoil. I mean, yes, some of the really high-end warbows could punch through it. But the idea is most hand-driven strikes could not go through chest armor or real plate armor. It just didn't happen. That's why they wore it. If it did that, they would not wear it, because if it doesn't give you protection, I'm going to tell you guys some real truth here. We're going to get real honest. Armor is hot. It can be encumbering. Not nearly as bad as people think, because the weight is distributed, but it is heavy. It is hot. The whole, and the smell would linger from farting in full plate armor. Two fun historical things about period combat. You know what? We're going to take a moment and we're going to get real historical and real of the grungy, unpleasant historical. First off, yes, armor stunk, especially in battle, because guess what? In the middle of the melee, if you had a bodily function, you didn't just get to go, hold, I have to go to the potty. If you're fighting for your life out in the field, they don't just let you stop and go take a leak or stop and go drop the boys off at the pool. Period. Swordsmen very often pooed themselves. So armor was a smelly, heavy, when you're talking about work armor, when you're talking about the real fighting gear, unpleasant stuff to deal with. And as somebody who's done some armoring in modern days, fortunately with bathroom breaks, thank all that is good and holy. No. This is not one I've incurred. This is history. It was brutal. Okay? Absolutely brutal. And yes, well, let's see. The smell would linger. That's a perfect time to let somebody else try it on. Funny. Right, I'm Brazilian. My tailbone is padded. Sabah is not Brazilian. His tailbone is padded, but the area directly above the padding isn't that much. It's very hard to pad that lower spine. Everybody got tail armor. Story time with Nick. No, history time with Nick. Because I love history. But one thing I have a necessity to do is move us, when applicable, beyond the Victorian sanitized inverted, moralized version of history and put it to what it was, especially since when we talk about swordsmanship, there is an obligation to talk about it at some point, at least, from the perspective of practicality and realism. And it's not fun, but it is necessary. And Ogre says, yeah, armor, such a dangerous idea, we upgraded to ballistic armor for conventional arms. Well, it's interesting. Before arms developed first, then armor. We got the spear long before clothing was really much of anything we think about. And before armor became a concept. The spear's been around for at least 500,000 years. The weapon is the instigation. And then we go, oh, we have to defend against the weapon. So armor is developed. Defensive gear is always reactive. That's why heavy armor went out when it could no longer stop ballistic gear. They didn't stop wearing it because they didn't like it. They stopped wearing it because it slowed them down. Warfare had changed, and it wasn't stopping the munitions coming at them. So you have this beat and counterbeat of arms and armor. So we didn't have any armor. We had weapons. We developed, armor to defend against the weapons. We developed the weapons couldn't work, so the weapons got better. So the armor got better. And this hopscotches its way through history. One of the things, the movie 300 is fun. It's a great, fun movie. However, one of the big advantages the Spartans had wasn't their abs, but they had freaking chest plates. They wore armor. The others did it. They could take shots. They couldn't. It was like playing a modded cheating character in Halo. Oh, you shoot me, nothing happens. I shoot you, you die, I win. The game hasn't changed conceptually. But what happened was we really don't like getting shot. It's a funny thing about humanity. We don't like taking damage. And we had different body armors. They stopped working. Mobility and actual cover was your best option. Concealment is good. Cover is better. Ingrain that in your head. And then we would move forward. Now, the armor progressed, right? And we've come up with ballistic armor that will resist firearms. No armor is bulletproof. It is bullet resistant. Different parts will, different types will respond differently for different rounds. It gets complex fast. However, the munitions are evolving to get past it, and you will see that give and take. They were like astronauts, but only worse. Yeah, and that makes you realize just how nightmarish, from understanding germ theory, a battlefield, a period battlefield was. Because there literally was fecal matter if there was a prolonged combat everywhere. There was the droppings from the horses everywhere. There was mud and guts and stuff. This is nasty. And it's important to remember. What a way to die. Yeah. His light has departed us, but his stench still remains. Yes. Movies are propaganda, convincing the masses not to properly defend themselves and discourage resistance. There's a point in that. There is a point and at least a political theory of that. I have encountered issues where people have politicized what we do, which is teach people historical recreation. Now let's bring this back to the armor that we were talking about, and that is a great movie. For what we do, very often plastic armor will be just as good or good enough at, compared to, period metal designs, and substantially lighter. So we run into a problem of, are we historical reenactors or recreationists? Are we following what they did for the purpose of fully understanding the history, which is fine. If you're chasing the authenticity bug, do that. But understand it may come at the cost of practicality. One thing I saw was the great divide in the society between people who wore like plastic armor and people who wore metal armor, because metal was higher quality, better looking, certainly more period, especially the people who got into the, let's say, fait d'armes, the you must be in full headgear, medieval gear for the reenactment side of things. Whereas plastic armor is used usually it's cheaper, it's lighter. Most of the time you can shrug most of the shots with plastic armor compared to metal armor. It's just the truth most of the time, especially if it's designed well. And what we are evolving towards is, am I trying to recreate the armoring techniques, or am I trying to make the best with what I have available? Now, as I prefer to fight with a plastic plastron, which is that lovely kind of goofy looking chest piece to keep my ribs intact, it's a hint on how I feel on that matter, and it is rather spicy. It's a spicy comment. But I like plastic armor because it can be cheaper. It can be more tailored and form-fitting. And it's a heck of a lot lighter. It lets me fight. I probably could not fight in period style heavy armor for the concussive stuff that I do. It's just a fact. By balancing this out, we can find what we're comfortable with and what works. This is why, and it's not over here. Oh, it's out in the hall, I think. No, it's in there. I know where it is. It's actually hung up. I use a riot shield as my shield because it's lightweight. Or the saucer sled if I don't want to be quite as cheaty and, not have a transparent shield. I can do the techniques. I can teach the techniques. But I physically can't handle the weight because my nerves won't give the impulses. It's not even a matter of physical strength in the terms people think. The musculature is there to do amazing things. The nerve control isn't always. So lighter makes it a lot easier on me. So you have to find what works for you, both in price and in the game you are playing. Your SCA, get your heavy marshal's manual, get your light marshal's manual, read what they say to wear, and wear it. If you're HEMA, talk to them. If you're ARMA, your manuals have manuals. But because what we do here is comparative, and what the simple sword is a distillation of things are falling again. The concept of what works, because my personal goal, my personal idea when you are learning the basics is to learn what just about everybody agrees on. And then you study the manuals from a perspective of literal physical education. You've educated your body how to move. You've educated your mind when to move, what to do. Now you can look at new techniques and go, will this mesh with what we do? By balancing that out, it works better, and you get to refine your own personal style, which is very different than saying, you're going to learn Gigante. This is what Gigante says, this form, this form, this form. Much like the Chinese forms that, like Cindy, is using. If you notice, she usually uses the words mutated. When we talk about destreza, Spanish, mutated style comes out of Cindy a lot because she's had to take a style as taught and adjust it to fit her personal body type and needs. That's what I want you to do. One thing that what we do here is never about finding how to fight like so-and-so. There are lots of other channels that do that, and they do it better. I'm not going to walk in that field. It would be unnecessary. But what it does do is it teaches, what we do is how to fight your best with what works best for you. Now, if you're a strong guy and you like the weight and the extra protection that comes from heavier gear, because you do get more protection, it's a simple matter of mass. A heavier mass is harder to move aside than a lighter mass. You get more stability. But to do that with heavier gear, when you can't do it, if you're given the chance to use light gear or no gear because of physical limitation, I don't see that as a choice. I'm going to use light gear. If you're given the choice of there's a $40 glove and a $400 glove, you look at your finances and you go, oh, I'm going to get the $40 glove. Would I like the fully articulated gaunts? Sure. At this point, if I'm fighting a style that requires heavy gauntlets, though, I'm probably switching to mittens because they provide a different type of impact. They're actually sturdier. That's why the clamshells are made. They're easier to make and they're sturdier. It's a cup that goes, let me see, do I have something? Okay, I have a fez. Cool. This is going to be the top of my gauntlet, okay? It rests, when I'm gripped, the piece rests against the handle. The force hits the gauntlet, travels through, and hits the handle. It doesn't hit your hands unless it caves in. That means you're not feeling it as much. Understanding that is part of understanding what gear works. This is a PVC short sword and sheath that I made for a few bucks. I quite like this rig. It feels good to me. I like the way it moves. I like the length. I like the draw. I like the fact that I have to remember to more firmly attach the back cap, but because that was a great magic trick. But it works. It's not my favorite trainer, but for talking about things in here, it works suitably well. Whereas right now, because I need a very lightweight trainer, and this is actually lighter than the PVC, something like this, yes, it cost me $50, but I can fight longer and better with something like this than I can with a heavier weapon. So I'm going to use it. Do I understand it comes at a price? Absolutely. But knowing what your gear costs, both financially and tactically, is how you decide if items are the right things to use. Now, let's see. We've lost some comments because I got on a tirade. Good movie. Just remembered there was a stream. I was continuing to read The Simple Sword today. Excellent, Alec. If you have any questions, feel free to fire them off to me, either in emails. It usually takes me a day or two to get my emails. It's just a thing. Or, if you see me on a stream, fire away, because any question you have as someone new to this is going to be something someone else new to it wants to ask. Johnny says, but they worked out so much, if they had to die, they should at least show the abs. That's literally why they made, musculata? No, that's not the right way for it. But they had their armor had abs to, advertise that they had abs under it. The ancient world had as much, if not more, braggadocio and style sense as any other part. And I will tell you, the Middle Ages were far more colorful than the vast number of modern depictions. They loved bright colors. Some of the baddest dudes on the planet, the Lansknecht mercenaries, were notorious for bright, clashing colors, clashing patterns. They wanted to be seen because stealth wasn't a tactical thing they were using, which feels very foreign to our levels of practicality. It certainly wounds my soul when it comes to a life and death. Life and death, I will only fight for the most honorable and necessary of reasons, okay? But once I have engaged in it, I'm going to use every underhanded, dirty trick I can to get the goal I need to neutralize the threat. It's a different mentality. The goal is to make the other sad SOB die for his country. Yeah. So just like a day taking care of animals, I'll have a sword with me the next time. Yeah. Carry a sword. Don't you carry a machete? You want to, functionally, guys, let's deal some ego-ish solutions here. This is my little short machete. I like this machete. This is one of my favorite weapons, period. Okay, this is a little bush sword. It's nice. The functional difference between this and a sword isn't, okay? This is functionally a sword. This is a cutting sword. Deep belly, wide blade. It has enough point that I could do point-based stuff. Solid grip. This is a cutting sword that's used for agricultural purposes. Machetes are beautiful. And see, I like this. Ogre, my life is more valuable to me than somebody else's aesthetic tastes. Yes. However, for some people, their life isn't more valuable to them than their aesthetic tastes. And that's where it gets interesting in the Middle Ages. Now, my own aesthetic taste, though, that's paramount. That's why, I wear bright Hawaiian shirts like this everywhere I go. But I will tell you, as much as I love my Hawaiian shirts, if I were in an environment where shooting started, this would be off and on the ground discarded rapidly. Why? Because another white guy running around in a crowd is a lot less noticeable than Captain Orange, the fluorescent flamingo over here, Reason why I listen to these streams. Gives great note-taking materials for learning. Absolutely. And like I said, never hesitate to ask questions. One thing that modern education tries to do is hammer out curiosity and the courage to ask questions and to be able to admit that you don't understand, please explain. It's just, we live in a factory education system right now. We don't do that here, Alec. You have a question. My goal is for you to achieve mastery. Mastery, remember, is defined as a complete understanding of the basics of any given subject. A functional understanding. I'm not, this, guys, this is what we do. This is the goal, intellectually, in what we do. Primarily goal physically. Many times I'll have people spar, and I will tell them, if you're doing slow sparring, do not speed up to block the shot. Even if going faster will block it in a slow drill sparring session, have to let the shot go through. Because you need to see that you did that wrong. And technique will fix what speed can't. Because, I'm fast enough, I can fix my flawed technique in practice. When you're going up against a professional, or an accomplished opponent, that little mentality won't work. It's all about the baby steps and the embracing, starting and learning and building on top of it. I don't want anyone thinking I was bashing instructors, because really I'm not. They're forced to mass produce because they keep increasing classroom sizes. And it makes it harder and harder to give one-on-one education to the people who need it. I have the opportunity, because I control my numbers, to be able to do that much more. And when I'm having a practice, that's what I do. Oftentimes, I have to be reminded at one of my practices, hey, Nick, you get to play too. Go out and spar a little bit. Because I've been drilling and working with the new people, while the more accomplished people, when you get to the place, and I don't want to say rank because that's hazardous, but where you're all colleagues and you're learning, you can stop a sparring match and go, wait, how did you do that? How did that happen? And you can work it out. You can check the tapes. This is why I recorded sparring sessions. You can figure it out. And from there, you can get better. But only by doing that. Only by taking the educational side. Oh, Foxy says, don't forget to like. Yes, please like this video. Especially when I get this intense on technique. It gets suppressed because a lot of the keywords get deemed by the algorithm as relating to violence. And I am not relating to violence. I'm relating to martial arts, which is a different thing. I want to teach people to be analytical, use critical thinking, and be aware of their surroundings. And if you do it enough fencing, you do it all the time. When you train your body, you start to know where you are. That's why when my nerves act up, I trip more, or I bump things, because I literally can't feel where I am as well. Understanding that is a good step for understanding the diagnosis of, wait, I'm bumping into things. I need to do some nerve glides. I need to stop. Maybe I need to hydrate, which I'm about to, and figure out what we need to do to make it better. Let me get into the comments because I've been going. Mutant Distressa. I have 5 woodcut images with the 16th century Spanish captions that non-Spanish student translated. What can I learn from this about Distressa that I can actually do? Absolutely. Need to set that butt cap. Nick inadvertently explains the subjective valuations in a free market system. Yeah. War is business. And business is war. Be honorable in how you conduct both. Peak fashion, Hawaiian shirts and suspenders. Yes, well, I'm not wearing my suspenders today because I'm wearing one of the pairs of pants that are, it's really peak fashion. I'm wearing my camouflage pants that I bought, swearing that, I bought a pair of shorts because I like them, swearing that they're very comfortable and no one will ever see them. And they are like cow splotch patterned, because I figured when I get Sharpie on them or stain them, who would notice? I always end up going places in it, but I don't mind the clash. Teach this scripted lesson with high fidelity and make sure you differentiate each student. That's like needing to cram 9 hours of education into a 6.5 hour of class time per day. And then you run that with the classic, well, if you're in college, you should be studying for 6 hours for every course you take, for every hour spent in coursework. 4 to 6. I take 5 courses. That's 20 hours a day. I actually need to sleep, eat, and, visit the bathroom. Yeah, our education system is completely excessively factorized. It really is. I think that's why so many people are trying to do homeschooling. Yeah. My teacher's watching the stream as we speak. Hi, favorite teacher who's likely lurking. Well, I hope you're enjoying it. I'm sure you feel some of the annoyance at education. And when you're doing something where you're educationing, yes, make me sound good. Speech impediment fires off. When you're educating something like this, and you have the freedom to do it, it's a great time to tailor and figure out what works well for what student. It's one of the joys of this. Inca Esports. Hello, Inca Esports. I hit the sub button. Following on our school's esports accounts. The other account should be followed too. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, comments, feel free to hit me in the chat. I love more hosts. War is business and business is war. Adding that to the quote book. Yes, Mr. L is the best. Hello, teacher person. I am a teacher. So yes, our education needs to. You teach U.S. history. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because history is something that is much neglected. I don't normally throw like bona fides and stuff, but I have a bachelor's in liberal studies from Purdue with a triple primary, double secondary. One of my primaries was in history. I at one point wanted to be a history teacher. I just got kind of tangled up in. I thought you had to be. I was told you had to be educated in what you were teaching, not in teaching format, and it was a whole shenanigan that led me to go, well, I will do other things. And now I'm an author, and I've been a librarian and a bunch of other things. Thank you for coming around. We're a friendly bunch. We do try to keep it friendly and civil here. I am Mr. L, as Alex said. Well, you are appreciated for your work, Mr. L, and your devotion, because it's very hard to do. Yes, I want to get into administration. So teaching is such a bizarre field. It truly is. And as I was going through, I was told some things. Cindy, that came up funny. I'm a recovering teacher. Elementary was specializing in ESL, biology, and gifted and talented. Doing much better now. As many of my favorite people are instructors. Classroom-wise, I was a long-term sub for 12 years. I specialized, based not intentionally, but that's where work was, and I was willing to get it, so I got into it in working with special needs and adult ed kids because nobody wanted to sub for them. And then I ended up doing a bunch of work with special needs adults in their homes and job coaching and things. And I was an art instructor for after school programs, and I was a one-on-one teacher's aide for a young boy who needed somebody with my unique background. So yes, let's see. I considered teaching in an academic setting, but seeing my mother struggles for 40 years, I decided to go into teaching a different path. And we're finding more of that. But I applaud our instructors in anything. And one of the great duties, I believe, in something you're passionate about, and I'm a man of many passions, is what you learn in art and it has served you in art or science, you pass it on to others to the best of your ability. So thank you. And thank you for coming out of the whole lurker mode. I enjoy greatly any commentary that's had. I believe in experts and expertise. But history is delightful. Shockingly, I spent more time in medieval and ancient history than modern and U.S. history. But that, given my interest, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Let's see, we got that. We got that. I thought about it, then fully realized myself, and I had patience lacking. And nothing wrong with lurking. Mr. L is doing a great job for beginning as a teacher. Us students like to cheer him on as he does us. That's what you want. And that's what it should be. I hate that so much of the world is built on unnecessarily adversarial relationships. And yes, this is a guy who instructs swordsmanship. But I have opponents. I don't have enemies on the field. And there's a profound difference. I want to win when I'm attempting to spar. But that is maybe tertiary. I want to be safe first. I want to have fun, and I want to learn. Then I worry about winning. But I will never have that bloodlust on the field that some people lean for, because it's simply not appropriate for that setting. And Thesis says, I've been studying Chinese martial arts, including history and culture, for more than half my life, and use that to instruct your students. Exactly. And that's what the guild is about. This is what I love, is that this is, we'll do that because I don't think we're going to go back into the shopping area. There we go. The Historical Fencing Guild is, and has never, from its inception, been the Nick Tucker School of Swordsmanship. No. You read the book, The Simple Sword does talk about my philosophies and stuff, but even in that, it's meant to be a bridge between styles to make a Rosetta Stone, make to establish a conversation. I want to set up the table where people come together to discuss their styles, and everyone gets better from learning from other people's experiences. And yes, this is why I do not train in an anger-fueled style. Absolutely. I came to heavy swordsmanship from a place of anger and a place of trauma. I'm not going to lie about it. And I was given basically two paths with this interest: a place of catharsis or a place of control. And heavy, hard-hitting combat, which I could have done, and at the point when I entered, I would have been very good at. And I can be if I need to be, at least before the nerves went. It would have made me feel better, but it wouldn't have fixed what I needed fixed. So I took Western martial arts with very Eastern philosophies. It's similar to war. It's weird to think about going to war just for the bloodlust. Many wars are fought blindly, not knowing you have an opponent, not only knowing you have an opponent, not necessarily an enemy. Well, yes. And it's very interesting how that can evolve with experience and change sociologically. The process of vilifying the enemy because the chess pieces have to hate each other. The chess pieces have no conflict. If left to their own devices, the chess pieces would all happily sit in their box, minding their own business. It is the general or the leader or the king or the commander who then has to take the chess pieces out, place them on the battlefield, and sacrifice them to achieve their goals. There is a process where many times you are either taught to hate the enemy, or the actions of warfare make people hate the enemy. And then after the conflict, the process of rehumanizing people who may have been of that group. My father served in Vietnam. I've been around veterans and PTSD veterans my whole life. It's a part of why I went into studying psychology and sociology, and why, after I studied psychology enough to realize it seemed much more about labeling and kind of defining it more than doing anything, I lean towards sociology. I find there's more understanding and adjustment can be made. It just has to be made at a larger scale. But I am not a veteran of any sort. I am a fat civilian who supports the veterans. I just don't think I don't think it should be necessary. And I see it as a tragedy when it is. And I believe the valor of our veterans should be, it is a resource that needs to be respected incredibly. The sacrifice needs to be respected incredibly. Signing on the blank signing a blank check to your nation that includes your sanity, your physicality, and your life, that is a noble sacrifice in and of itself, let alone how one processes it being cashed in. But so any issue I ever have when I'm talking conversation like this, never think it is against the veterans. Because like I said, I grew up around veterans and I grew up around Vietnam veterans. And what I observed is some of the most damage that they incurred did not come from what they endured overseas, but how they were treated when they came home. And I know that's way off topic, but this is what happens when we have topics like this, because the weapons change. The tactics may change. The strategies rarely do. It gets really weird. That's why you should read Art of War, but also read. God, I can never remember his name. That's right. I have my copy right here. The Art of Peace by Morihei Ueshiba, guy who invented Aikido, wrote an answer to the Art of War. Little tiny book, very good book, should be read. Art of War should be read. Book of Five Rings should be read. These just should be read. But similar to War Bloodless. Okay, sorry, I got auto tangent again, so I need to catch up with the chat. Fencing is neat. I love fencing. I dabbled in Olympic saber at one point. I did a good deal of book-based Iaido, and I got back into it for a couple points in my life. Boken work. And because I've studied, it's ironic because I've studied Iaido a little bit and Tai Chi and a few other styles with different people, because I will shock you that my approach to hand-to-hand combat training is exactly my approach to armed combat training in study, I look for the physical conversations and then learn what my body does, what it doesn't, and what it goes through. However, because I worked with special needs and I continue to in my home out of necessity, I keep to the CPI reflexes. That's crisis prevention and intervention. Deflecting shots, So I've had to repress a lot of my more aggressive styles. Make the enemy inhuman and faceless. It's easier to kill an enemy than another serve. It's weird to me to think that many wars are just that, as you said, where people fight blindly on the side of nationality blindly. So they're really just pawns, a specific way to view history, as you kind of said, a little bit. I have dabbled a bit in history. There is a purpose to war, but the meaning of that purpose is not always understood, even by those that serve, if that makes sense. I 100%. No, absolutely. I had a professor. His name's Chuck Pressler, and I wish, due to some fires and floods, I've had some calamities in my life. I don't have my old college notes, but he had a wonderful lecture on why war is good and we need more of it. But it covered the sociological benefits of war and what it does for communities. And it's a big part of why they actually happen and why so many systems are in place to maintain them happening, usually in a very limited fashion because small wars are profitable. But at the micro scale, especially when you look at something where you're conscripted or drafted, you never wanted to do this. You never wanted to go into it. You never wanted to go engage, and you're just thrown into the situation where you have to take as much training as you can to survive, but it wasn't anything you looked for. It's fascinating and horrifying at the same time when you realize that most people, I truly believe, are good, and I truly believe there'd be no need for it. This is why a lot of times I focus on small unit defensive situations. This is, it's a manual of defense, not a manual of warfare. I'm not big on duels. I mean, one can engage in them, but I see them as wasteful. Beyond all the morality and violent aspects, the concept of a duel that has any lasting damage is wasteful. There's so much other better stuff that could be done with their times, and the idea of fighting to get to the point where you'll have to have a conversation anyway. Why not get to the conversation? But that's a complex decision. And the sad fact is, while the vast majority of people are good, noble, loving people, in my opinion, there is a powerful minority that are extremely the opposite and have to be factored for. It does. I was clearing out the headstones of veteran graves today to be respectful and be thankful of their service and sacrifice. Alec, that's why you're one of the best young men I know. That right there is a sign of character and respect, and why I'm so glad to have you associating with what we do. The Art of War is a good piece. I think you mentioned that 100%. Oh, absolutely. And I like to recommend things that, with very little Googling, very weak Google foo, one may find. And on my must-read list, of course, is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. I like to add The Art of Peace by Morihei Ueshiba. Sorry, I have a speech impediment, and it's been a long time since I took Japanese. It can get a little preachy towards a Buddhism vegetarian mindset, but Dan Millman's Way of the Peaceful Warrior is a phenomenal read. It's fictionalized, it's dramatized, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. If you're looking for historical source manuals, I am a complete sucker for the Soleil or the Rapier, by Nicola Gigante. He is my favorite sword master, one of the great fencing instructors, because amongst other things, he had real combat experience, and he was very matter of fact, very reasonable. George Silver's, I want to say, Paradoxes of Defense is another good read, and that one's actually in English. I recommend that, not as much for the technique, although there is some good classic shorter sword, arming sword techniques, and a very much a response to the Spanish approach to rapier, which he hated. But his opening is a wonderful tirade of shade that I think everyone should read when he's just bashing the other masters. It's really delightful. Like Agrippa, the Swordsman's Companion. I think that's a Guy Ritchie. Not Guy Ritchie. Guy Windsor. Guy Windsor book is a very good read, but I need some people who took it way too seriously. If you can afford the DVDs, they are expensive, but Maestro Ramirez, is it Maestro? No, Maestro Martinez, I'm sorry, does La Verdad Destreza, and it's put out by Palpable Hit Productions, which is Anthony DeLonghis's production company. He's done assorted DVD instructions for things like for Cold Steel. I'm pretty sure he was behind the Saber series that Cold Steel had. Now, these DVDs are expensive, but they are magnifique. And there are there are just a lot of really great resources. And if you look online, you can find a lot of the manuals. It is tragic because there's a group called ARMA, Association of Renaissance Martial Artists, I believe. I'm trying to remember the acronym. And I love that because they work heavily translating what they do, translating martial arts manuals, and they put money to it. Tom Leone did the Gigante manual. It's on Amazon for like $22. After you've read The Simple Sword, Alec, if you have the means to get that manual. It is a great read. The Tom Leone is my favorite translation. I have digital copies of it, but I don't have a physical anymore. Again, things that were lost in the fire. I'm still rebuilding my collection. But once you start to understand what they're talking about, you can learn a lot. And you want to learn about the levels of conflict, where you have the single interpersonal, you have group, you have geopolitical. And by understanding the different levels, your mind can kind of move up and down the ladder to see why things happen and understand. And I'm a big fan of that. You can find The Art of War and Book of Five Rings as graphic novels. That's true, too. I encourage my students to do graphic novels of historical pieces. Sometimes it's easier to read and understand. Yes, absolutely. I have done game design for graphic novels. I've made some RPGs, role-playing games, based on graphic novels. My art is getting back where I think I might have a shot. I want to do several graphic novels, but of my own subject matter. But yes, graphic novels are an amazing medium, and they need to be respected as such. See, Alec, I love history. I was sad when I didn't get it last year. I'm getting it this year, so I'm very happy. I understand that. Tried to look it up. Don't think this is it. Associations of records managers and admissions. No. Yes, Association of Renaissance Martial Artists. Thank you. And there was a time where I considered karate. That did not go well. I got injured often, so I enjoy learning from afar. Now, that may have been a case to step back a bit of learning hard arts versus soft arts. And like several forms of kung fu are considered soft arts, karate is a hard art. And a lot of it comes with the way the strikes and stuff are blown. We're not going into the internal, external, metaphysical side of things. We will leave that aside for now. That's a whole different conversation. But one thing I found with especially karate practitioners, because so much of it, the strikes are very rigid. Rapid, rigid motions are bad on the joints. It can easily damage the joints. So I prefer softer styles. As an instructor, if you haven't gotten CPI certified, I would definitely suggest you get into a program like that, where they will teach you the physicality of how to block shots, how to absorb hits, how to deflect things in a way that you don't hurt your student or you while maintaining safety, because physicality in the classroom has very much been on the rise. And yep. Let's see. Hold on. I don't want to skip Alex's conversation. Nick's book, The Simple Sword, has many images for references if you have reading impairments. Absolutely. And I have a very fast and dirty version, about an hour long, and I put it that way because it was an emergency for a friend who is heavily dyslexic but needed to learn right now. I did a recording basically going through the whole style. I regularly try to revisit it because I can tell the same techniques maybe from a different perspective the longer I do it, and as I've had to recover from numerous physical altercations, is a learning experience. It changes the perspective. Try a softer martial art. I'm Learning Wu style Tai Chi, still very martial, but not so yikes. Yes, softer. I've done a couple variants. I was learning some Hapkido from a gentleman for a long time, and basically what happened is everything go with me. Everything I learned goes into the pot, gets turned into a stew, or laid out like a buffet, and I take what I want. So my personal style is bits and pieces, but hard. Yeah, that's true too. Hard versus soft or problem of instructor sensei. That's also harder styles tend to attract harder instructors. Well, I know, for example, I love watching UFC, but only when I know the fighters are skilled in martial arts. Muay Thai is some of my favorite. Muay Thai is amazing. It's a devastating, relatively close in, very fast, very aggressive style. When you're looking at the spectrum of mixed martial arts, which I am an observer of, but not a participant, uh, there are usually three pillars you have to cover to make that work. That's what makes it mixed. You have striking, grappling, and kicking. So in the older days, you would have something like you'd get your boxing strikes, you'd learn catch wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, and then either kickboxing or maybe taekwondo, you know. Yeah. And they've started rotating which fills the different roles. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is great for the rolling aspect. Boxing still holds better than people want to give it credit for. Muay Thai, elbows and knees for days. If that is something you're interested in, you want to learn, I have a YouTube channel that I can recommend. His name is Ramsey Dewey out of Shanghai, China. He did competitive MMA. He did a bunch of things. He's a coach teaching MMA in Shanghai, China. He was born in Utah. Wonderful, wonderful instructor who understands the difference between practical / street combat, although he makes a lot of fun of it, and what it means to be a fighter in the ring. So you get some fascinating philosophical discussions. When I agree with it, it's amazing. When it's problematic, when I disagree, I still respect his perspective. Don't overdo it too much, Nick. We know it's late. It is late. I've been up very late the last few nights, and I actually took a sizable nap. I've started taking a nap on Fridays to recover so that I can do this program in hopes that this thing is going. MMA, UFC rubs me the wrong way, but don't begrudge others for. I can understand that because it's fighting for the sake of fighting. You have a much more philosophical approach, and it is much of it. The combat is one-on-one exchange, and it's not fighting because the practical point of a defensive engagement, if you have to do it, is to get in, do whatever it takes to be able to get out and escape. So it's a very different mentality. When there's sportsmanship and the individuals understand what they're doing, it's a different community, and there's a lot to actually admire in the right people. In the wrong, when it's done wrong, it's just people beating the tar out of each other. But there's a lot of philosophy and a lot of conduct there. Agreed, Foxy. Nick the content. Oh, we got a good one. As a new viewer, what got you in fencing and your love for it? If you're having to get off stream, then you can answer this a later time. I always loved sword styles. I grew up in a fairly rigid household, and I was what was considered a latchkey kid for a time. And I was only to watch certain television programs. So getting real early, one of the PBS and this low value. If I said low value Christian station, uh, that sounds terrible, but they low budget. We'll put it that way. Um, and they would run the classic black and white Zorros. So, because my dad was not inclined to a lot of violence, he was worried about violence on me and a lot of other things. So Zorro was very much a early inspiration, especially the fact that he was essentially the Zorro the Fox. He was this little spry guy who did things, and I was beaten badly in school. And as I progressed, it got worse until my freshman year, which was beyond nightmarish. I was set on fire. I was stoned in the biblical sense, regularly, savagely beaten by large numbers of people for reasons that I don't need to discuss here right now. But I carried a lot of anger. And during this whole time, I also loved anime. So, you end up with a love of the katana. But I made it through high school. And while I'm a very kind person, I try to be, I also carried a vast amount of anger. Because when you are one against many all the time, it builds up in you, and you carry it, and it can be monstrous. And I went to Purdue University North Central, beautiful campus. It now has been redubbed, but during club call out, second half of my freshman year, they had I came out, and there was a very attractive redheaded woman fencing with a gentleman who looked nothing, almost comically like a humanoid walrus. And being that I was a young man, I was interested, and I left a note, and they got back to me a few months later, and ironically, and it's a beautiful, I went to the first meeting of it, the call out, and I was walking in, and in the middle of the cafeteria was this line of people, and in the middle was this brunette lady, a girl, whatever, It's hard when you're in college because you don't know, are they women, are they girls, what's the proper vernacular? I thought of these things. I still think of these things. Right next to the redhead, and the redhead was completely irrelevant at that moment. And I saw her, and I went to my friend who was with me. You see that brunette over there? I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her. I hope she's nice. And sideline, that's my wife. We dated for 2 years. We've been married for over 20. And that's part, it was great. But I got in, and at the time, they weren't sure what I was interested in, because I just wanted to make swords go. I love swords. I'm also a D&D player, and I wanted to be able to do what my character did. Not the crazy magic like the Chick Tracks thing, but the skill sets. So in college, I sought out to learn as many of the skills that my D&D characters would have. This is why I learned all sorts of camping things, bushcraft things, lock picking, and swordsmanship and knife throwing and archery. I'd done archery for a long time too. But I had an incident where I was fighting in a boffer bout, and I got angry, and I was suddenly very proficient, and I realized I did not like that, and I had to make a choice. Did I want to learn light or heavy? So I decided I wanted to control that instead of let it loose, and I started training. And the gentleman I trained with, whose name I will not speak on this list, not out of fear, but out of he doesn't deserve to be recognized. He was a talented instructor. I will give him that. However, he was very bigoted towards women, towards people of limited physical, physical limitations, towards people who he didn't feel would profit them. So he would deliberately either hurt them or train them wrong. But because at that time I was learning from him, I was assigned to work with the people who weren't worth his time. Well, because he couldn't, justifiably get away with them. And I found ways for them to adapt. And I realized that that was my passion, helping people become the hero in their own story, helping them get that sense of courage. So everything I was learning, I was passing it on. Just, I was like a conduit, just sponging up things. And because of my trauma and a level of hypervigilance, I found I was incredibly good at assessing people's styles. So I would go to bouts and I would watch people. And if I watched them long enough, I could fight in a similar style. I could emulate between 60 and 80% of how they fought, so that people could spar against me using similar techniques to the people they were having trouble fighting with. And I would deliberately teach people to beat or at least oppose people. And this was this great rush. This offended the gentleman because he apparently had a beef with someone my wife knows. And he attempted to have me not associate with her anymore. He wanted me to trade off. As he put it, and I quote, "I will make you my cadet, and you will get you'll have access to all the rank. You just need to do one thing, and that is dispose of that supersized fighter chick you're dating." I'm like, "That's my fiance." No. And that earned me enmity forever, like to this point. But it also began me on this path where looking for the people who were marginalized and saying, maybe I can help you. And once they get their feet under them, pointing them towards other people who could help them or other styles that suited them. And I really found my niche for a while, and that earned other people's ire and was problematic. But I believe in service, and I believe in trying to be the person I wish I knew when I needed people. And at the same time, the physical training girds one's mind and soul. And it gives that. The worst part of what happened to me wasn't that I was beaten up, or the concussions or the scars or the fire or all that. It was that I physically could do nothing. And I vowed never again. I don't mind losing, but to be completely ineffectual, to have no choice but escape wasn't an option. I never wanted to feel that way again. And I never want anyone to have to feel that way. If I could make a world where people never had to feel powerless, I'm not saying you'll win. I'm not saying you'll succeed. But to be able to say I did something is such an important piece of enduring and how you deal with it after when you've had trauma. And I found that a lot of people who've endured stuff, I work with a lot of people who are suicide survivors, who are rape survivors, who are assault survivors. And learning to sword fight gives them the confidence to be able to look people in the face again. It gives them the confidence to dare to live and not just survive. And that's why I big part of why I do what I do. And the other part was to control the anger inside me, because I realized it was there. And a part of me, I will always have a measure of anger and a deep well of it that was just instilled through surviving. And learning what that is and how to take that energy and through, meditation and philosophy and physical exertion, perform alchemy and make that into a positive force is what I try to do. My goal is to be useful, which sounds so strange, but that's my defining purpose. Is I want to be useful, and I hope to be kind. Let's see, in a way, I'm kind of glad that person was a jerk. They accidentally gave us the Nick we have today. Absolutely. How do I want to put this? I appreciate the way that I'm a Christian. I don't inflict that on others, but I'm a Christian. But that God used very dark paint to make a picture that I could be a brighter substance, to contrast. That being said, that individual's malice is something that is a process that I have to do my best to forgive. And it's the type of forgiveness where I just put the individual aside. I instead of holding anger, hoping that they're hurt by it, which is what most bitterness is. It's just, and I don't know who said it, someone far wiser than me. Hatred is holding a burning coal in the palm of your hand and hoping it it hurts the other guy. But that was a terrible paraphrase. But there's lessons there. And it's given me opportunities to do good. So I can't quite be thankful, but I can see the gain. Let's see. I feel that that's the same as teaching, instructing, or anything of service. You get the opportunity to teach the stuff you wished you knew when you were learning. Exactly. That's kind of why I want to be the type. That's kind of why, Alex says, I want to be the type of person to be there, because you know how it is to not have anyone behind your back or to stand beside you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate people like Nick, because they're the reasons I got this far, and I'm extremely grateful. It is an honor and a privilege to be of service. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, so Conan, Ninja Turtles, Highlander, Kusuji, and other things like that. I tried karate, Japanese arts, learned they were far too rigid for my tastes. And that's another thing. Though diagnosed in my 40s, I have attention deficit, and I have a few other things going for me that I'm very not neurotypical. So that means that I don't learn well from rote. I need to know why. And as soon as I know why, I need to have the freedom to tinker to see if it can do better. Don't forget big stompy robots using simple spears against flying axes with simple swords. Yes, you can buy all my books on Amazon. And you can find my artwork for 20 years on deviantart.com/NickT. Then an uncle introduced me to Bruce Lee, and that taught me Chinese martial arts. I brought a book of Tao Jeet Kune Do and went down that rabbit hole still into. Now, I do have to credit someone else that I didn't, and I really should have, Mr. Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan was probably the most influential martial artist on me. And both in his the kind of characters he played and in his approach, being a product of MacGyver and Jackie Chan, mental flexibility is something I've pursued my whole life. And the idea of, if you look at Jackie Chan, it's almost always escape, minimal, using the resources around. I'm sorry, I don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this. Please stop hitting with the stick. Bang. Now I've hit you with the stick. Now I feel bad about it. But yeah, Jackie Chan. I like Jackie Chan better than Bruce Lee. Tune into patreon.com/historical fencing guild to help Nick teach people to be dangerous safely, and tune into the Guild's Friday show. YouTube.com/historical fencing guild. Don't miss tonight's episode. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Hopping off so Nick can hop off and hopefully go to sleep later. Guys, I appreciate your kindness. I will finish my drink, and I will take these also subtle and nudge of my loving viewers that it is time for me to back away. Please, guys, like, share, and subscribe to this. Thank you, Mr. L, for joining the chat. Please feel free to come back with any questions or comments you have. Guys, like I say every week, do your drills. You're not going to get better if you don't put in the hours. Keep your guard up. You have to see the threat before so you can deal with it. If you don't see it, you can't deal with it. Be kind to yourself and each other, because we need more kindness in this world. And as always, thank you for supporting your local swordmaster. I will see you next week for another Historical Fencing Guild live stream. Toodles, folks. Oh, thanks for streaming. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Good night, everyone. Okay. Good night, folks.